To introduce to you our very special guest tonight. His name is Victor Vesnaver. He has over 30 years of experience driving technology initiatives in the hospitality industry worldwide. In Victor's current role, he is responsible for expanding RMS, which is a property management system, market share across broader industry segments among independent properties and hotel chains. Previously, Victor held the position as Senior Vice President of Sales and Marketing with Parr Springer Miller Systems. I'm sure you've heard of that company. Vice President of Hotel Business Unit for Micro Systems, which is one of the biggest software company in the world, and Senior Vice President and Chief Technology Officer for the Mills Corporation. In addition, Victor's background includes positions with Security Capital Group, where he was the Vice President of Information Technology and Chief Information Officer for their European subsidiaries. Hyatt Hotels Corporation as the Assistant Vice President of Information Systems, Sabre Decision Technologies, and Zoho Corporation. Victor earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from the Colby College in Waterville, Maine, and holds an MPS degree in Hotel Administration from Cornell University's School of Hotel Administration in New York. And that's pretty much Victor's background. And again, Mr. Vesnaver's back. You're welcome again to just listen to Victor. And we'd like to welcome you, Victor, this evening for joining us.
Thank you very much, James. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Thank you.
So I have a little bit of a slide deck here, and that I thought I'd run through.
And I'll make you the presenter. One moment. I'll make you the host. All right, there you go.
All righty. Let's see what happens here. Gotta close that. Share. Can you see my screen?
It says has started sharing screen, so I think it's coming up soon. Right now it's a blank screen.
I was afraid this might happen.
Ah, there it is. Now it works.
There?
Yep.
Oh, okay then.
Oh, it stopped again. Oh, there you go. Yep, like we can see it.
Okay, I'm just gonna try to move the screen in front of me so I can see it. Inch by inch, it's coming. Wow. I've been having a little bit of a problem with my monitors, and I think that's what we're suffering from right now. Can you guys still see it?
It's currently blank. There you go. We can see it. I can see this now.
You can see it?
Yep.
Okay, great. And unfortunately, because I'm a semi-geek, I've got 3 monitors, but 2 of them have decided to go blank on me. So I'm going to have to, you're going to see the side of my head if that's okay.
That's okay. Yes.
Well, again, thank you very much, James. I really appreciate the opportunity to spend some time with you guys today. As I mentioned, I have a little bit of a slide deck that I guess out of necessity, it's going to be a little bit of a commercial, but that's really not the intention. I hope to hopefully draw some more industry standard themes through this to give you kind of a sense of how at least I think about property management system technology and its various tentacles as it reaches through the operation of the hotel. Um, let's see here. Did the slide change? Doesn't look like it did. Let's see here if I can. You know what? I am going to do a little low tech here because I think that's part of the issue. Oh, maybe now it's okay. There we go. I have to admit, Jen. I'm assuming you can see the next slide.
Yes.
Okay, great. So just to give you a little bit of a sense for the company, RMS was actually a company that was formed in Australia about 35 years ago, initially focused on the outdoor hospitality space, RV parks, campgrounds, mobile home parks, and the like, marinas, do a little bit of work in marinas as well. But like much of what I would call the commercial real estate industry, every sector of the commercial real estate industry relies on some form of what we call a property management system. So whether you're in hotels or you're in office buildings or apartment buildings, self-storage units, basically it's the same business with slightly different business issues. We're basically renting a box to somebody for some period of time. We have to keep track of how much we're charging that person and be able to render them a bill at the end of the month or at the end of the day in the case of the hotel business to collect the money that they owe us. So all of those different kinds of real estate businesses basically do the same thing, and they use what's called a property management system to do that. So it's not too unusual for a business like ours to have gotten into the industry through one end of the business and now find ourselves broadening that experience, not only for the outdoor space, but also for the more traditional hotel portion of the industry as well. We have a global presence in about 45 countries around the world. We've got 6,500 customers deployed around the world today. Most of our development we do in-house, which is getting more and more uncommon. What you'll see from a lot of vendors, not only in the property management system space, but in other verticals or other segments as well. Products, in addition to having companies having their own development staff, they also are leveraging outsourced staff many times around the world. But for the most part, we do all of our own development. And most of that development today is done in Australia. We do have 3 developers here in the States that work very closely with the team in Australia. As I said, the company's been around for 35 years. We've been operating in North America for just under 10 years at this point. And we have about 800 customers in North America today. You can see on the slide where all of our offices are located. So we really are a global company today, serving much of the world. So what sets RMS apart from the rest of the field? There's lots and lots of property management system companies that focus on the hotel space. Very capable products all the way down to startups that are, just starting to cut their teeth and start amassing the necessary functionality. As you can imagine, with a product like this that's been around for 35 years, there's lots and lots of functionality that has gotten built into the system over that time. Some of the things that we think we kind of stand out for is not only for the product, but also our ability to be agile and to deliver services to our customers because that are maybe not necessarily canned, but be able to be very flexible in how we deliver our services and modify the product to the degree necessary to meet the needs of some of our bigger clients in particular. We are privately owned and do have local experts scattered around the world. So although we've got a number of offices that you'll see on that prior slide, we end up having local talent that we rely on as well in other parts of the country, from an installation perspective, from a training point of view, sometimes from a technology point of view. So we really have great reach and a great skill set to deliver our customers. We were one of the very first property management system companies to embrace the need for cloud computing. And as a consequence, the RMS product today is fully deployed in a cloud environment. What that means is we can install this product without necessarily having to install lots and lots of hardware on the property. That minimizes the cost, not only in terms of the initial investment for the customer, but it also minimizes the operational cost because you don't need to have very skilled technology folks on your team necessarily to operate these systems that we deploy. They're centrally located, and in fact, we don't even host them ourselves. We rely on Microsoft to host our product today and take advantage of the incredible capabilities that company has to offer without us having to dedicate brain power to running the systems. And we can now better spend more of our time thinking about what needs to go in the systems, and therefore deliver a higher quality, more capable product for our customers. So that's been a huge trend in the industry, probably over the last 5, 6, 7 years, to move to the cloud. Very early on, people would say, oh, don't want something that isn't in my basement. I want to be able to see it. I want to be able to touch it. But I'll tell you today, if you're not in the cloud, people look at you kind of funny. And unless there's a particular reason not to be in the cloud, I think most hotels today are most anxious to get rid of all that hardware that they have to maintain and keep updated and continue to enhance, and rely on somebody else to provide that basically at the end of the wire. Our clients today range from small independent hotels, inns, boutique hotels, all the way up to very large groups. And some of our best skills are actually in deploying our product to large companies that are geographically distributed. And it's one of the reasons people come to us, is because we have that ability to do those kinds of things. We are adamantly focused on trying to deliver value with everything that our product does, and question ourselves, do we have to do that because the industry has always done it that way, or can we find a new, more efficient way to deliver that functionality so that the customers get greater value out of the product that they buy from us? The other interesting thing that we're very proud of is once a customer signs on to RMS, most often they stay with us. We have like a 99% retention rate in our customer set, which is very enviable in the industry. So here's a little bit of a techie slide. I'm not going to get into it too deeply, but as you can see across the top, we offer the product in a variety of different forms: laptops, desktops, mobile devices, tablets. We use something called HTML5. For those of you who are a little bit more technical, it's basically a programming language, and it's transportable across really any environment. So we're environment agnostic. We don't really care whether you're on a Mac or you're on a PC. And I'll tell you, having worked for a number of different companies like RMS in the past, that's not always the case. So it's clearly an advantage for us. The graphic down below just gives you a little bit of a sense where some of the nuts and bolts are. Clearly, there's a database, and obviously that has to be stored on servers somewhere. And again, as I mentioned, we rely on Microsoft to do a lot of that heavy lifting for us, really around the world. We're currently hosted in both Australia as well as North America, and we'll be expanding to places like China very soon. So it really gives us a great deal of flexibility in terms of how we manage the technology behind it. Towards the left of that graphic down there is something called an API. API stands for Application Program Interface. I'll get into this in a little bit in a minute, but basically that's the mechanism that we use to talk to third-party systems. A big part of hotel property management system technology is not only the functionality that we build and deliver to the guest, but it's our ability to integrate with third-party systems as well, so that we can take the data from those systems or give data from our system to those systems to deliver value in different areas of the business. And I'll show you a graphic about that in a little bit. In addition to that, as you can imagine, reservations are a big deal in the hotel industry. And we have a number of ways that we can deliver reservations. The most popular and desirous form of reservation traffic is through a customer's own website. So giving the customer the ability to actually book reservations when a guest goes to their website is an important part of what we do. In addition to that, and we supply the technology to do that. So we have kind of a plug-in technology that we can hand to the guest, to the hotel, that takes our system and embeds it in their website. So many smaller hotels, individual hotels, not part of a bigger group, are very interested in that because it's the least expensive way to take reservations. Kind of the next step up is delivering that API that we talked to a bit a couple of minutes ago to a customer who may desire to build their own booking engine, what we call a booking engine, that they contract separately for to a third party to embed in their website. It will look a little bit more custom. They may be able to build more custom functionality in it. Typically, a smaller independent hotel may not care to spend the money to do that. Clearly, any group, hotel group, or what I would call a collection of hotels or small chains or even large chains, they're going to want to put their brand on it and make it special, make it a little different from everybody else's. In that case, we use that API layer we talked about a minute ago to deliver the functionality to the customer so that they can transform it into whatever they needed to do on their website. And then lastly, reservations also require not only guests coming to the individual website or booking directly with the hotel. There's a whole ecosystem of distribution channels out there, whether it be travel agencies, what we call OTAs, online travel agencies, companies like Expedia and Orbitz and Booking.com. All of those different mediums want to book at hotels. And so we enable that through a channel management product that we'll talk about in a little bit. So as I mentioned, one of the powerful things about RMS, and candidly many property management systems out there today, is the ability to integrate with third-party products. The property management system is really a fascinating place to be because it sort of sits at the heartbeat of the hotel. It kind of acts as the traffic cop in the hotel to allow information to flow between various systems. And sometimes the property management system will be the source of data that a third-party system wants. Sometimes there'll be data that's generated by a third-party system that the property management system needs. And sometimes we'll take data out of one system, pass it through our system, and hand it to a third system. So the property management system really becomes sort of not only a traffic cop, but an enabler in the industry. So it's a fascinating place to sit. In some hotels, as an example, you might have 10, 15, 20, 30, in larger, more complex properties, maybe up to 60 different systems that are running behind the scenes that guests never know exist. And because we have to keep track of how much money the guest is spending and different requirements the guest may have, we kind of sit in the middle of all those things and pass that data around. So it's an incredibly powerful tool, and much more complex than the average person checking into a hotel really understands. So when you think that every time you make a phone call out of the hotel, which just doesn't happen very much anymore, obviously, but when you make a phone call out of the hotel, when you watch a movie in your guest room, when you order room service, when you turn on the lights in the room potentially, when you adjust the temperature in the room, when you leave the room and the hotel wants to turn off the air conditioning or lower it by 5 or 10 degrees so that they don't consume as much electricity. That's all kind of initiated and managed through the property management system. So it really has tentacles throughout the property and is much more complicated than really anybody understands. One of the ways to do this is through additional modules that we sell, basically interface modules to third-party systems. And we've actually created kind of a marketplace inside of the system so that hotels can kind of self-serve that to themselves. In some cases, a more complex interface we may still need to get involved in, but we're rapidly moving in a direction so that a customer can kind of go to the app store, but the RMS app store, and say, I'd like an interface to No Cross, which happens to be kind of an outboard housekeeping application. And the hotel can kind of configure that themselves, choose to buy it, configure it themselves, and deploy it themselves without necessarily having to spend money having us do that work for them. So again, a very powerful feature that we've been able to deliver. As you can imagine, it gets pretty complex having all these systems talk to one another. Some of them are in different kinds of technologies. Obviously, they have their own databases and record layouts and information that they're capturing and utilizing. There is an industry-wide organization called HTNG, which stands for Hotel Next Generation. Hotel Technology Next Generation, and that industry association is a group of hotel companies and vendors like ourselves that participate in it, and we come together and agree how are our systems going to talk together. That organization started probably about 20 years ago, and it has become kind of central to everything that the hotel industry does as it relates to systems, and to a large extent ensures that we as an industry can communicate between systems to deliver high value to the hotels. Let's see here. As I mentioned, reservations are incredibly important. Without reservations, we don't generate revenue. So as a consequence, the whole notion of channel management is incredibly important. Years and years ago, people used to call the hotel. A few years later, people would call an 800 number to make a reservation, and a reservation would get faxed to the hotel. Then they introduced central reservation systems that gave bigger hotel companies the ability to centralize that reservation function across, so that hotels didn't necessarily have to have their own reservation office in the hotel, and they could rely on that central reservation functionality. That central reservation functionality also then plugged into the travel agent systems, so that a travel agent at the end of a wire sitting, a world away, could actually make reservations in the hotel. But then a new phenomenon started to pop up, these things called OTAs, online travel agents. And there's literally hundreds and hundreds of them that have surfaced. Some of them are very broad range. So companies like Expedia and Orbitz and Booking.com are kind of generalized OTAs, but there's very specialized OTAs for very small markets around the world, for very small kinds of travel around the world. And as a consequence, hotels are very anxious to sell their product through those channels. It tends to be an expensive route often compared to taking the reservation yourself. But if it means filling the house more on a regular basis, there's great value in doing it, but you need to do it judiciously. So you want to make sure that you're allocating your revenue, the guest rooms, to these different channels in a cost-effective manner. Because if you can sell them yourself, you wouldn't necessarily sell them through a channel. So you have to keep an eye on that from a revenue management point of view, where you want to status your hotel, and where you want your sales to be coming through. But of course, if you have spare capacity, you don't mind spending a little bit more money to get those heads in your beds. So you rely on different channels to do that. Channel managers, there are third-party channel managers in the marketplace today that you can subscribe to that will help you do that and allow you to manage your inventory across all those channels. We, as it turns out, have developed our own self-contained channel manager as part of our solution, and have the ability not only to connect hotels to those channels as we talked about, but also allow the hotels to connect to more primary booking sources like travel agencies. And by doing that, we can eliminate some middleman expense, take one transaction out of the middle of a broader set of transactions, and ultimately reduce the cost to the customer. So there's a number of reasons why hotels may choose to use a more elaborate and a more commonly available channel manager, but we deliver this capability as a value add to the customers that want to take advantage of it. We have over 100 channels that are available today on our channel management solution.
Hi, everyone. If we get disconnected, just please make sure re-log in again. I apologize. Yeah.
And I'm being asked to admit people, so as soon as I see them come in, I let them in.
Thank you.
Guest-facing tech is always sort of an interesting topic. And particularly now that everybody has a smart device in their pocket, we very early on started developing some capabilities in this area, probably earlier than many companies, and kind of in a very similar sense to how airlines developed apps where you can kind of check into your airline seat before you get to the airport using the app. We started building something similar to that a couple of years ago and have it deployed. With the notion that over time we would add more functionality to it so that the guest could go as far as they could relative to checking into the room, and then maybe to the degree we were successful, only having to pick up their key at the property before going up to their room. And candidly, today there's huge efforts afoot, and there was actually even before the pandemic, to have a totally contactless experience for the guest, where the guest wouldn't even have to go to the front desk to check in. So we've developed capabilities to allow that kind of thing to happen through these guest-facing technology apps that we are now providing to our customers to take advantage of. It really kind of served us very well in the last 12 months because in addition to guests not wanting to go to the front desk to check in, to be more socially distant, we also recognize the need in some markets around the world to deliver kind of a health check application. So we embedded that into this app as well, our guest-facing app, so that to the degree that the local government requires somebody to do a test that they're healthy and they don't have a temperature and so forth, we actually have our app now can do that and store that data and make it available to the local governments as might be necessary. So we are definitely seeing a continued interest in this kind of technology, not only for checking into the hotel, but also for paying. So contactless payments is also kind of a big deal. So we think we kind of hit the ball out of the park with this one, and we were able to deliver the health check portal in a very rapid pace, or earlier in the year, earlier in 2020, to deliver that capability. So that's really all I had in relation to the company and how we sit in the industry and some of the nuances of the industry. Happy to answer any questions you guys might have, clarify anything that I've shared.
First of all, I just want to thank you. We only have a couple of minutes left before this thing ends. So if we lose you, Victor, I just want to thank you for the time and really great information. I do have one question for you. With API, it is quite amazing how the advancement of technology has allowed hotels to meet and exceed guest expectations. For example, I know that now you can track some of the preferences of our guests, right, in guest rooms. The temperature of, and the lighting and all those things, so on and so forth. What is the most recent technology that you think is like, a lot of the property management system is working on, that's like, out of this world kind of thing, right? That will exceed guest expectations.
Well, there's always things that are happening in the space. I guess one of the ones that will resonate most with you guys is there's quite a lot of activity these days with Alexa, being able to from your guest room, using natural language, ask Alexa to turn on lights, ask Alexa to deliver towels or room service items. So that's clearly a very popular one these days that is taking off. A business that I was in actually just before this was before I joined RMS, was allowing guests to actually select not just the room type that they were going to stay in, but actually selecting the specific room by showing them a floor plan. And if they clicked on a specific room, it would bring up a virtual tour of that room so that you could really get a sense